was living in Santa Monica, California, and I was an out-of-work actor, and I was driving down Santa Monica Boulevard and had need for a hammer, although I don't remember why. I went into a store called Busy Bee Hardware on Santa Monica, which I think is still there, and it was going inside was like a general store in New England, which is where I grew up, and I don't recall, and I'm not sure I would have known at the time, what made me start thinking about a sort of way of life that I knew as a kid and that I recognized as endangered. Starting with that image or metaphor, I thought it'd be interesting to write about the passing of a time, and so I really meant it to be more thematic and less specific than it turned out to be. But to this day, 19 years later, I still contend that it's not just about that family and their experiences during one summer. That I really was writing about the end of an era. It was clear to me that I was at the cusp of the end of a time when people would go and spend an entire summer at a cottage on a lake. When I was a little boy, that's how our life was. We'd go at the end of the school year and stay until almost Labor Day, and it was paradise. Well, and Golden Pond was kind of a flop when it started. It was never a smash. It only became successful when it got out of New York and started getting done all over the country. And I have this agent who still represents it and still pays his rent with it. And he said once that it was like what they used to say about the British Empire, that the sun never sets on a production of it somewhere. And it's true. It's always being done. It's really remarkable. On Golden Pond had been done at the Kennedy Center in early '79, I think. A period of time, I don't know how many months went by. I think it was the year that Henry Fonda got the Kennedy Center honors. And this usher went up to him and said, "Mr. Fonda, we had a play that came through here some time ago that you really should know about." So he went and tracked it down and saw it on Broadway and told Jane about it. She said that she would read the script and would produce it if it struck her fancy.
Well, needless to say, I wanted to work with my dad in a movie. He was ill at the time, and I knew that it had to be sooner rather than later. And this play, because it was first on Broadway, on Golden Pond, seemed like a really good vehicle.
He didn't think she'd want to play it because it was not a large role, and she was really popular at the time as a movie star. And then she came back and said that she not only wanted to produce it, but wanted to play in it, and that's how the ball started rolling.
Ernest Thompson, who wrote the play, also wrote the script, which was perfect because he had it in his heart.
I was in my office and I was going to meet with Ernest for the first time, and this mature drama was written by a handsome young leading man who was about in his early 30s. I was stunned when he walked into the office. I thought, my God, this is an actor. He should be a star. Never mind. I don't believe he wrote this material.
He just doesn't look like someone who would write, Arsenic and Old Lace, which is, or Golden Pond. He just doesn't look like, you don't think of that.
I don't know why they let me write the screenplay, to tell you the truth, because it's not always done that playwrights are allowed to.
I love Ernest, but he was a scary guy to me. He was so serious. I mean, he was a big, brooding type of guy.
I probably was pretty intense. It was my baby, and I had never done a film before, so I don't think I knew really what the parameters were. But I'm glad I intimidated one of them anyway. It's too bad it was only a little short guy.
My recollection is that before we even called her about it, of course our dream was to have Katharine Hepburn be with my dad. She called our office and said, "Now, you can't shoot it in Maine because the leaves don't turn orange, and you've got to shoot it in New Hampshire where there's autumn and and bossing us around in her unique way. And so we knew she was on board. They had never met, Katharine and my dad, before. So it was a big deal.
Her father recommended me, thank God. And Jane and I knew each other, and so they sent me the script, and I just fell over. It's a really distinguished opportunity for a young director to direct the icons of American cinema.
I think a Sunday afternoon, a messenger delivered the script of Golden Pond to me, and accompanying a phone call from Jane saying, would you mind reading this? And would you mind doing it for us, this little part? And no money, and no one's going to get any money, and it's just a little picture. Just a little picture, but I'd like to do it from my dad because I think he'd have a real good shot at winning an Oscar. So I read it and cried, cried over the script, which is a rare thing, you know. Called her back and said, absolutely, I'd love to do this thing.
We saw literally hundreds of children. But Doug McKeon had a kind of feisty sensitivity that was really at the heart of a part, and an ability to suffer.
I think everybody had in mind a certain actor, but Mark was going to make the final decision on it. And the numbers just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it was myself and maybe 3 other guys who were finally up for this part. And Mark called me a couple of days later and said something to the effect, so, you want to go make a movie? And I was in, complete heaven.
Squam Lake in New Hampshire, a magical place. The people who lived on the lake refused to let us use it as a location until I just knew they would never be able to resist Kate, so we had a town meeting and I brought in Kate Hepburn. And it was over, she spoke to them, and that was it. It was like watching, a queen enter. There's nothing like walking into a room with Kate Hepburn on your arm, The whole town fell to their knees.
Just before we started shooting, we had a read-through. The reading was at 10, and I think about 8:30, Kate went out and chose her chair and was already sitting in it when we all arrived. And it was at the head of the table. This would come as a surprise to her, but the story wasn't really about her character. It was about all of the characters, and primarily the 2 of them, but in her take, I think it was about her character. All of the rest of us, the actors and director and various support people, gathered on the veranda, and Mark Rydell very intelligently said, Kate, why don't you sit around here by Henry so we can establish that relationship? And he got her out of the head position.
The truth is, you must take control. I mean, you have no choice. If you don't take control of a picture, if you're not in charge, you're going to be walked over. And the picture is going to lose its unity and its vision.
I had not been present when she first met my father. And the fact that I had not been there as one of the producers was unacceptable to her. And so the first words that she said to me was, I don't like you. And, from her, this is like God is judging you.
Henry and Kate both come from the theater and were extremely respectful of the script. Mark is a smart guy. He was very helpful in trying to develop the play into a screenplay, and he brought a kind of savvy that I just didn't know about.
I pointed out to him that I thought that there were some opportunities that he might have missed that we can address in the screenplay, essentially being issues of mortality. How does one face those ultimate moments? And I have to credit Mr. Thompson, because he saw right away that the opportunity was a great one to put Henry Fonda, for example, in front of the mirror at the opening of the screenplay when he walks into his house and goes over to a group of pictures of himself and see him as a young boy, as strong, lifting weights, and to go through the shot, which we did, of panning these pictures, which finally ultimately showed a newspaper clipping that of his retirement, and then for him to lean up into the mirror and for us to see Henry Fonda in his late 70s was an opportunity that could not be overlooked. When you deal with issues where there is no robbery or gun or a holdup or the more conventional melodramatic situations you see in movies where the movie depends for its very existence on the inner life of the actor and how he feels about certain things. That's the drama. You better be prepared to stick your face directly into those issues that are perhaps most frightening to you.
One of the scenes that affects me a lot is the scene when he's scared in the woods, you know, because it's not something my dad ever allowed anybody to see. Not easy for him. I think it must have been one of the hardest scenes to show panic and fear.
It was a dangerous day in an odd way, you know, because he had to do things that were taxing, and he had 2 pacemakers, and you know, his heart was fragile. And ultimately, he had to confront a certain kind of terror that was in the scene, you know, the terror of being lost, of losing contact with familiar surroundings. And he, as the superb actor that he was going to address that honestly. And we had to have him run here and run there, and he was out of breath. And finally, to reach that, there's a kind of a gnarled, horrendous tree that we found, where he finally looks up into a tree that seems like death to him. His breathlessness became real, and his panic about even performing the scene became real, and reality fed the art, because he insisted on continuing. You know, long after I had enough to take care of the scene, he wasn't satisfied. He wanted to do more, and another run here, and perhaps I can go to the tree another way, and you know, because he saw that it was creating in him the anxiety of a man facing death, old, facing impotence, facing the sense of that he's useless and that it's all over.
You want to know why I came back so fast? I got the end of our lane. I couldn't remember where the old town road was. One little way in the woods, there was nothing familiar, not one damn tree. It scared me half to death. That's why I came running back here to you. See your pretty face. I could feel safe. I was still me.
When he came back and played that scene with Kate, where he confessed the experience to her, all of us were paralyzed by it, because it was real.
You're safe, you old poop. And you're definitely still you. Picking on poor old Charlie. After lunch, after we've gobbled up all those silly strawberries, we'll take ourselves to the old town road. We've been there 1,000 times.
If she was going to get to him, the way to get to him was to whisper in his ear.
And you'll remember it.
To whisper it with great clarity.
Listen to me, mister. You're my knight in shining armor. Don't you forget it.
Henry was saying, I'm old, and Kate was saying, not to me. That's what was going on, you know? And when you can catch that on film, it's like having lightning in a bottle.
He was Norman Thayer, I think. It was like a perfect match.
I hear you turned 80 today.
Is that what you heard?
Yeah. Man, that's really old.
You should meet my father.
Your father's still alive?
I was really intent on doing a good job and being very professional. And when they said cut, to go off to the side and sit down and not bother anybody. I do remember one time I was sitting off to the side, and I think it was at this moment that it did hit me, that all of a sudden, outside of this professional attitude that I adopted, that there I was watching Henry Fonda walking across the front of the property, and I'm working with Henry Fonda now. And I thought I was sitting off enough to the side where he didn't see me just staring at him. But all of a sudden he stopped and he looked at me And he said, "What are you looking at?" I was just, caught in my seat. And I said, "Nothing, nothing," as if to apologize for staring. And he said, "Are you happy?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Good, you should be." And he just continued to walk down the property.
I just had a birthday too. I turned 13 2 weeks ago.
Huh? We're practically twins.
Catherine always called me boy throughout the making of the film. At the very end of the film, she put her arm around me and she said, "Doug, it was a pleasure working with you." There were things in my life, there were things that were actually happening personally for me. My parents had separated and divorced, and there was an anger that I could tap into that I felt was justified with Billy Ray.
Bullshit. Dad, I'm not going in there with that old turkey, man. He gives me the creeps. What if he dies?
Now listen to me. If you don't start behaving yourself, I'm gonna send you right back to your mother. Do you understand that? Is that what you want? Now go back in there and talk to her. Maybe you'll learn something. Go on, go on.
Well, how about a coward in the woods? That's kind of nerdy. Afraid of bears? Well, one should be afraid of bears, but not that afraid. Not when they're not around. At any rate, he was not that attractive a character, but a lot of fun to play because of those things. Because he was a little off balance with the location, with the area that they were in, and with Henry, of course, himself, making him squirm a little bit, to say the least. And so everything was awkward and fear, and that's kind of fun to play.
I think I saw a bear.
No, no. You couldn't have seen a bear out there at this time of year. There are some rather nasty moths flying around, though.
Dabney is a profound actor with enormous skills. I wanted Dabney from the beginning to be Jane's husband in this part because he seems to be a bit of a buffoon when you first meet him. And a perfect target for Norman Thayer to tease, which he mercilessly does.
Norman, we'd like to sleep together if it's all right with you.
What do you mean?
Well, we'd like to sleep together in the same room, same bed, if it's not offensive to you.
All three of you?
No, just two.
You and Billy?
No.
Not Chelsea and Billy.
No.
Well, at least Chelsea knew then.
That's right.
But I know Dabney has a kind of dignity and power and strength that he does not like to use, not like to toss around, but you can call on it when you need it.
I want you to bear one thing in mind while you're jerking me around, making me feel like an asshole. I know precisely what you're up to. I'll take just so much of it.
It's a beautiful day. We're going fishing.
What? We're going what?
Fishing. You remember fishing, Norman? You're going to show Billy what life is all about on Golden Pond. Come on, Billy.
Bullshit.
I beg your pardon.
To be an actor, a young actor at that, and have the license to say that word in the company of adults, and to say them in front of people like Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn, I don't want to say that was fun, but it was a unique opportunity.
You like that word, don't you? Bullshit.
Yeah.
It's a good word.
Billy always felt he could give to anybody, to adults in general, and not get back.
I mean, I know I'm just being dumped here, which is like my middle name. Turkeys don't want me.
Bullshit. I'm 67 years older than you. How do you know what I want? We're going fishing now. We want you to go along. If you want to come with us, I suggest you get your ass down at the dock in 2 minutes. Okay, Mrs. Turkey, let's go.
It's exactly what Billy needed to hear. He needed basically to have somebody kind of stand up to him for once, kind of give him a mental slap on the face.
Damn.
You got the match backwards. Want me to do it?
I think I know how to light a fire, for Christ's sake.
Mark is just, he has a very special way. There's a scene in the movie where Henry Fonda mislights the fireplace, if you will, and fire catches to a part of the house. And as the scene was being discussed, Catherine felt that she should put out the fire.
He wanted to put out the fire. Said to me, it's my house, I should put out the fire.
Norman! Norman, you set the house on fire!
What the hell's going on?
Get a bucket!
What?
Now, there is legitimacy to her position. It's my house, I should put out the fire. I said, no. It's critical to the material that the boy puts out the fire.
Good for you, Pepper. Good for you. Let's have the screen. Screen. Ooh, boy. Yep. That's all right. That's all right.
For God's sake, you made a hell of a mess.
What?
It humiliates Henry as an old man that this young boy had to make up for his deficiencies.
What are you staring at me for, you little son of a bitch?
Don't you think that everyone looks back on their childhood with a certain amount of bitterness and regret about something? It doesn't have to ruin your life, darling. You're a big girl now. Aren't you tired of it all? Boa, boa, boa. Life marches by, Chels. I suggest you get on with it.
I'll tell you two ways that illustrate the fact that she knew very well what was going on with me and my dad. There was a scene where they were playing Parcheesi, and I wasn't. I was sitting kind of with my back to them, brooding and reading a magazine. And at one point, I turned and I said something to him. It was a kind of a tense and somewhat angry exchange between the father and daughter in the movie.
Chelsea doesn't like playing games. We don't know why. Probably doesn't like losing.
I tend to panic when the competition gets too intense.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing. So we were filming then the close-ups. And I couldn't see his eyes because of the lighting on me. So I asked them to pop a little light on so I could see his eyes for this exchange. Because it just made it fuller for me. And then they turned the cameras around and it was his turn for his close-up. And just before we shot, I said to him, "Is it okay, Dad? Can you see my eyes?" And he said, "I don't need to see your eyes. I'm not that kind of actor." And, you know, it was just the same old thing. I felt just like Chelsea said in the movie. You know, I was the producer of the movie. I'd won 2 Academy Awards, for heaven's sake, you know, but I felt about that big. And part of me wanted to die, and the other part said, this is great, because this is exactly what's going on here. But I was really, really hurt. And after the scene was over and we broke, Kate came over to me and she put her arms around me and she said, "He has no idea that he hurt you." She said Spencer never knew when he hurt me. She said sometimes we would shoot. We'd be shooting his close-up of a love scene between the two of us, and he'd tell me I could go home. He didn't need me there. They don't know.
What do you suppose he's gonna say? Hey, Chels, fantastic. I'm so happy that you finally got your life together, and I'm so proud.
And he will be proud, but
No, he
cover it
won't.
up.
No, he won't. And you know why? Because he doesn't care. He is a selfish son of a bitch.
That old son of a bitch happens to be my husband.
And another time during the big scene with my father and me, the one where I walk out to him in the boat. From the first time I ever read the script, all through rehearsals, whenever we would get to that scene, I would, you know, practically cry perpendicular tears. I mean, it was so real and so full for me. Well, as an actor, you should always beware of things like that, because invariably, when the time comes to actually shoot them, those are going to be the hardest scenes for some reason. So the time came to shoot, and we shot his close-ups first. And every single one of his close-ups, I tried to be as full as I possibly could to give him a lot to, you know, to play off of.
I want to talk to you.
And the camera turned around, it was my turn, and I was dry as a stick. I had nothing left, and I was panicked. It's the actor's nightmare. So I said to Mark Rydell, "Look, let me turn around, turn my back to the camera and prepare, and then when I'm ready, I'll turn and start the cameras rolling." So I turned And I looked, and there in the bushes was Kate. Now, she wasn't working that day. She didn't have to be on the set. And she looked at me, and she kind of stood up, and she went like this. She willed the performance. And it was older actress to young actress. You could do it. It was mother to daughter. It was Kate to Jane. And she willed, with these fists, willed me into that scene. And I loved her for it. She knew exactly what was going to happen. And she was there to help.
Just stop it. I don't want anything. It seems that you and me have been mad at each other for so long.
I didn't know we were mad. I thought we just didn't like each other.
I want to be your friend.
Oh. This mean you come around more often? Mean a lot to your mother?
I had never said to my father, I want to be your friend. And you don't see my father well up in many movies, or certainly never in life. And it was because we had never had a moment like that, and nor did we after, for that matter, that it had a lot of resonance. Men who are like Norman, which my father was, don't suddenly become somebody else, you know. It's real hard for them to kind of step up to it and put the arm around in the way he did in the movie. So it's not like everything was resolved, but the parallel issues in our lives to those of Norman and Chelsea, I think, gave depth and resonance to our relationship in the movie.
Jane is away and returns to the country to see Kate and discovers her in the woods. And she began to sing a camp song of her own, a camp song that she had remembered as a child, and dancing freely in the woods. Like any great actor, she got lost in the camp song. You know? I could see her moving back generations to the time when she was a child and she was dancing in a camp around a campfire. You could watch that occur in her mind as she sang the song, as the song stimulated memories. And that was a barometer of her skills, the ability to surrender to an old memory.
When we did the water scenes, us in the water, that was in and around the first couple of days of September, and that water was really cold. And both Henry and I had wetsuits on underneath our costumes. And there was a great concern for Henry, obviously, in his health.
Billy! Billy! Come on now. Hold on to the rock.
It's very dangerous because you have a man, as I told you, was already quite infirm, and you feel so guilty putting him in the water, holding onto a rock. You know, he's holding onto life as it is. And then we had Kate come.
Norman Thayer, Jr., where the hell are you?
She's looking for him and discovers him with the searchlights clinging to a rock with Doug McKeon, the boy. And to my amazement, she said, "No stunt people. I'm going to do this." I said, "What are you talking about?" The scene called for her to dive off the prow of the boat and swim 25 yards to him and hold him and tell him how wonderful he was, you know, and that everything's safe. She insisted on doing it herself. We had a stunt woman there to do that, made up like her and made to look like a woman who could do it. She insisted on doing it. There was no stopping her. And I remember watching her dive, fully clothed, off this boat, land in that water, swim ferociously toward him. And you know, if you see the picture, you'll see that the film is uninterrupted because I didn't want to have a cut so that you could say, "Oh, there's a stunt woman doing it." You could see that she is doing that. That's the kind of woman, by the way, that she is. She has a kind of heroism that's genuine. It's not an affected heroism. It's not a mantle that she wears. It's real. She's a heroic figure. She's larger than life. Something horrible happened to her shoulder, serving tennis 2 or 3 weeks before the film was to begin. Pins had to be put in her shoulder. So we went through rehearsal, and I kind of delayed certain scenes that I knew would be taxing for her. But early in the picture, there was a scene where she and Henry decided to go canoeing. She said, I should carry that canoe to the lake. I said, you know, the canoe must have weighed 100 pounds or something. I don't know what a canoe weighs, but it was a light canoe, but it was, after all, a full canoe. And Henry said, well, I'll help. She said, no. And suddenly she reached over and picked up that canoe, and we were all amazed as she trudged to the lake carrying this canoe with this torn, horrendous shoulder. Now, in the cutting process, many things that you love, you have to relinquish. Time, pace, rhythms, and I had to cut that shot out. When she found that out, she was enraged. She told me that she would never, ever forgive me for removing that scene. And I, had to tell her, listen, I'm sorry. I had to remove it. It's wrong. I had it in. I know you want to demonstrate your power and skill. It had to go. And I tell you, she'll never forgive me. And I apologize to you right this moment, Kate. If I had it to do over again, I would put it in just to make you feel better. Having Katharine Hepburn and Henry Fonda to play these roles, people who were indeed facing the end of their lives, you have to expose yourself as an artist.
Shut up, Norman.
Both as actors and as a director. You must have feelings about those issues. And that takes bravery.
You shut up.
My numbers up, do that for me, will you? Prop me up with the mantle, point out which way it's down. Might even try for a full gainer with a half twist.
Norman Thayer, Jr., your fascination with dying is beginning to frazzle my good humor.
Hey, we better hurry up and catch Walter, huh? I mean, I'm not gonna be here much longer.
Yeah, neither am I.
Those scenes about life and death were no longer just words on a paper and characters discussing things. It really was more like life.
Hey, Norman? Are you afraid of dying?
What?
Are you afraid to die?
The hell kind of question is that?
It was almost like I was walking on eggshells for a moment.
Well, I don't know. Why everybody has to talk about everything all the time.
As a 14-year-old actor, it all of a sudden
Let's go home, boys.
came home to me how important these words were.
He was afraid of dying. Henry Fonda was afraid of dying. And as a result, Norman Thayer was afraid of dying. It's when you bring life experiences to the material, real life experience, that the material somehow is infused with a kind of experiential reality that's incomparable. In the end of this picture, he has a minor attack. Apologetically, I said, look, you know more about heart disease than I do, and I apologize, but let me tell you about my mother. I think it's very dramatic. If you might try to find a very detailed spot where the pain focuses, and it's like a needle in a particular area. And he looked at me and he caught hold of it immediately, I mean, he didn't shy away from it. He surrendered to it, and it gave it a kind of horrific reality, where people, everybody on the set jumped forward thinking that, is he really, He loved that, by the way. He adored fooling people and falling, and really deeply and having that specific little pain that, Kate was absolutely sure that he was in real trouble. She looked at me once when he fell. I knew that I had given him that little detail, and he executed it, and it was so riveting that she was frightened. She thought that he was ill. I said, no, go on. So she came into the scene, thinking she wasn't sure whether he was really having the attack or not. So that gave her a kind of a reality of, this desperate urgency with which she approached him.
Take this, darling. Put it under your tongue.
What is it?
Nitroglycerin. Put it under your tongue. Dear God, don't take him now. You don't want him. He's just an old poop.
I wonder if I should kill him here. And I remembered so clearly Dr. Zhivago. And there was a scene where Omar Sharif was on a trolley or a bus or something, and he saw Julie Christie walking down the street outside, and he got off and went after her and fell down and died in the snow, and she never turned around and saw him. And I always felt so cheated as an audience member that I thought, he'll die next year. He'll die over the winter. It doesn't matter. Let him get up and have the dignity to say his last words to his wife, say goodbye to the lake, to feel that life will go on.
Ethel.
Yes. I'm here, Norman.
Ethel.
Yes, yes, yes.
Ethel.
What is it, Norman?
I think I'm feeling all right now.
It's dealing with these issues. You have to be very brave yourself if you want to deal. You have to deal with your own mortality as well, and your feelings of mortality, and your fears of not waking up in the morning, or of having a heart attack, or of Henry having a heart attack, or of something happening to Kate, and how quickly it ends. Life can be there and be gone in another moment. And while I was in the editing process of the film, I received a phone call from Jane. She said, "You better show the picture to Dad because he's really dwindling and he may never see it." I was horrified. So I said, of course we'll show it to him. I hadn't seen him in 6 months, the time that it would take to edit the film. And suddenly emerging from this limousine was a shadow of the man I had worked with. He had lost much weight. He was very fragile. He had to be helped across the pavement, inching footsteps, little tiny footsteps. We started the film from the projection room. He was alone in the room. And I walked around the lot for that hour and 52 seconds. And I came back just as I knew the credits were and the curtain was closing, and I opened the door and I walked to the back row where he was seated. And he had an assistant with him who helped him to his feet. And he moved toward me in the row, and I moved toward him. And before he got to me, he stumbled, and he fell toward me, and suddenly he was in my arms, and he was shaking, and he felt like a bird, because the bones he was so thin, and I realized he was shaking because he was sobbing. And he said to me, whispered in my ear, "I thank you for the best moment of my life." It rapidly became the proudest moment of mine. And he died shortly thereafter.
One of the important things that I think the film says is that it's so important to reach out to your parents before it's too late and heal the wounds and repair the breach. And it usually is up to the younger generation to do that. It's usually the children who have to say, "I want to be your friend." And if you don't do it before the end, it's a wound that stays with you forever. And I think that's why the film was so helpful for people.
I had a neighbor in New York whom I never knew very well. as one doesn't in New York. And one day she said to me that she had something she wanted to tell me. And she said, you know, I'm Jewish. And about a year ago, I started dating this guy who's not Jewish. And my father disowned me and said, that's it, you know, don't feel that you're part of this family anymore. And she said, about 2 weeks ago, he called me and said, I saw this movie. It was called Golden Pond. And I was thinking maybe I'd come down to the city and we could have lunch one day. And she said, you know, you changed my life. So I guess On Golden Pond was a success after all, because, you know, it brought one father and daughter back together again.
You don't get that opportunity very often in life, do you, to achieve a dream, to fully realize a dream, a creative dream, and to have the most perfect people to be in the most perfect play, and to realize it fully to your own satisfaction. It's just not a common experience. There's always feelings that you failed in this way, or you may have failed in that way. I think that I was pleased with On Golden Pond, even shamefully so.
People worked very hard, very dedicated to it, very responsible, very corny, very touching. Wow, I'm just even thinking about it. It's a great time.
That's what it takes to make an Academy Award film. I mean, that's what has to happen. You know, things have to fall into place. You have to have that kind of magic existing.
Everybody working on the movie knew that it was a blessed experience, that it was magical. I mean, even very early on in the filming, during the lunch break, we filmed, of course, right at the edge of Squam Lake, and a family of loons came right up to us. Now, that just doesn't happen. Loons are very, very shy animals. The cameraman quickly got his camera and filmed them up close, which is very, very rare. And all of us sort of felt that it was a sign. Even the loons knew that this was going to be special and wanted to be part of it.
There was a spirit in On Golden Pond that is probably a connective fiber for everybody who was involved with it, and maybe even for people who see it. It's not by accident that I moved just down the road from where we filmed On Golden Pond. I think my kids have a better shot at a true childhood living here in the wilderness than they would have on Marina Del Rey or something. And I can't say that you know, this is Walton Mountain and that love grows in the spring, but I think there's a lot more generosity of spirit here in New Hampshire. My kids are very slow to grow. It's, I guess, unfortunate that it would seem that you have to go somewhere to find that.
I think Celia Johnson was...
You never got anything to eat, Danielle?
Me neither.
Here, why don't we get a picture of us all lying on this nice soft grass?
Okay.
What a life.